welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to help trauma therapists be their incredible selves, to be human, to be real, not just a clinician. I'm a big believer in who we are is more important than what we know. And this requires cultivating authenticity, genuineness, and vulnerability, and that requires intention. You can learn more about my courses and workshops by going to thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. Let's get started. All right, here we go. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Very excited to have as my guest today, Dr. Christopher S. Taylor. Christopher, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Guy.
You're welcome. So Dr. Taylor utilizes existential psychotherapy to provide treatment for individuals struggling with loss of identity. In 2015, he was appointed by Governor Greg Abbott to serve on the Texas State Board of Examiners and Professional Counselors as a professional member. In 2018, he was unanimously voted as vice chair of the board and was reappointed to a second term in 2019. Working with various state and private organizations such as Child Protective Services since 2008, Dr. Taylor has experienced a lack of community support for broken homes in both urban and rural communities. In an endeavor to alleviate this issue, Dr. Taylor served as a court coordinator and program developer for Legacy Family Court in Dallas County. All right, Dr. Taylor, before we get going on here, share with the listeners where you're from originally and where you are currently.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm from Florida, and I'm now in Dallas, Texas. And, you know, a little funny story about being from Florida. Growing up in Florida, I always thought they were called Florida ceiling windows because we're the sunshine state and that's where all the sun comes in. And true story, it was not until I moved to Texas and I was standing in a Home Depot where I saw a big sign that said floor to ceiling. And I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. Also, my life is based on a lie. So
that's very funny. All right. So how did all this start for you? How did you get into this field?
So getting into counseling for me was sort of I guess, kind of failing upwards. I don't know. It just kind of happened. I was at Texas A&M University working on my bachelor's in philosophy, and I was going to go in the Air Force as a pilot. And it just kind of didn't seem like that was going to happen. The Air Force was kind of going in a bit of a different direction with drones and unmanned, flights and stuff. And so it didn't really seem like that was going to work out for me. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of had this sort of, I don't know, epiphany, if you want, or just sort of, deep soul searching. And I just realized that wasn't my life path. That's not the way I'm supposed to go. But I didn't know what the path was. So I didn't know where I was supposed to go, what I was supposed to do. And several of my friends had mentioned that they really enjoyed talking to me, that they enjoyed sharing their problems with me, that they liked, how well I listened, that I was, one of my favorite quotes, a Walt Whitman quote is, be curious, not judgmental, that I was never judgmental about what they were struggling with. And one of them suggested I do that for money. And I was, well, you can just do nothing for money. You could just sit here and listen to people for money. And so that kind of started my journey down the road of becoming a professional therapist.
That's really interesting because some might say there's a very kind of stark difference between the service and counseling. How did you swing over there? What inspired you to swing that way?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever watched Forrest Gump, Lieutenant Dan has a member of his family that's fought and died in every war. Well, that's my family. I mean, my dad was in the Navy, my brother's in the Navy. I'm a son of the American Revolution, with my ancestor being Jesse Lane, who fought against the British at the Battle of Cowpens. Like, I mean, I just everyone in my family has gone into the military, so me not going to the military was kind of a big deal. Mm-hmm. and there was some, it was tough. It was a tough moment. And so, but, really looking at it and saying, is this really for me? And realizing that it wasn't, and that was not my direction. It was a tough choice. And then, the rest of it just kind of opened up for me.
Well, I mean, I think it takes a lot of insight and guts to make a choice like that, to switch gears like that. So walk us through. You decide to shift gears, you go to school for counseling or what?
Right. So I had some of my friends, my pastor, some other people recommended Dallas Theological Seminary. This is a great school. They have a great counseling program. You can go there, you can get your master's degree in counseling, and you can learn more about being a professional counselor. I wasn't quite ready to do that yet. So after I graduated, I moved back home to Florida, but instead of going to Jacksonville, I moved to the Florida Keys. And I got this sort of job working as a dive guide, a rescue diver on a dive boat, just basically living for tips and just, working on this boat all day, every day. Very, very like escapist, right? Just getting away from the world, I do that for a while. Then I realized like this, I think I'm ready to get serious about life. And so I moved back home to Jacksonville, and I get a job working at Child Protective Services at CPS. And this is really where I get like my introduction into how bad the world can get. And so this is where I experienced a real poverty. This is where I experienced an actual broken home, not just a divorced home or a home with a tough go, but like a home where children are actually starving, where they have not eaten.
Let's pause for a second there. So share with us an example of what impacted you specifically.
Yeah. So one of the most vivid memories I have is walking into this house with the sheriff, and there's no floor. The whole house doesn't have a floor. Wow. There's no floor. Even the subfloor is rotted, and you can literally see the dirt, and you can see bugs everywhere, and you can see this. And this house has 8 kids in it. And the grandfather that's doing his best to take care of him is an oxygenarian, right? So he's on oxygen all day. He is way too old to be caring for these kids, and he knows the look on his face. He knows is like, we're gonna have to take these kids away, And so he was doing the best he could in the situation he had, but so these are kind of the tough stuff that we experienced.
So you was it kind of an internship or a practicum?
No, this was a job. This was a job. I was a CPS investigator. Yeah.
Oh man. How long were you there? How long were you working that job?
Less than a year. Than a year. That's where I got the like, okay, yeah, this is the path I want to go down. I want to be in this field professionally. That next semester, that's when I came back here to Dallas and went into grad school.
Somebody had said, okay, this is the path I don't want to go down. But what about that experience inspired you to pursue that further? That's crazy stuff.
It's hard to bring up, but there was this one boy that, oof, man. It's going to get me emotional, guy. I wasn't expecting that, man. There's this one boy who just, he looked at me like I was the stable thing in his life. And that was like really powerful. Mm-hmm. And helping him and helping his mom get back to where they needed to be, that was powerful. And I was like, man, this is real change. We're doing something real here. And I want to see how I can do that more. How can I do this best? And that inspired me to get my master's and then my doctorate.
Well, so a lot of times people think of, when they hear CPS, they hear of kids being taken away. Mm-hmm. And yet the example you just shared, it sounds like you were doing something else. What specifically were you doing in that instance?
So, it's both. So in many cases, you're removing them from the environment, putting them in a new environment. You're working the case to get mom or dad the treatment or into the place where they need to be. Usually there's some kind of legal case that's going on. And in some cases I was transporting the child. And so I would put in a car seat and like drive over there and pick up this kid from the placement home and bring him into the supervised visitation area. I would do the supervised visitation, or we'd have somebody else. I might take him to therapy. I might meet him and his mom at McDonald's and allow them to have, lunch together or something, and just kind of, be there, but try to be in the background,
What, I mean, that's such a loaded job. I mean, it seems to speak and say something about our culture. As you were having that experience, what was going through your mind? How were you reassessing not only yourself and your purpose, but this is such a big question, but our culture?
So, I mean, look, I was 22, so I don't know that I was really that tuned into American culture. But I will tell you, just for me, from a personal space, it really gave me a glimpse into how phenomenal my childhood was, how grateful I am to have anything that I have, how grateful I am to have parents that love me, that are there for me, that support me, how grateful I am to be able to do these kinds of things. And so that has really created this spirit of desire to give back and gratitude for me.
So walk us through what happened after that experience at CPS there.
Yeah. So after that, I moved back to Dallas, or I moved to Dallas, and I go to Dallas Theological Seminary. There, I start while I'm going to grad school, I start working for one of my professors in his private practice. So I get to learn how a practice runs and operates. I graduate from Dallas Seminary, and I get approached by Dallas County to run this drug court program, to start this drug court program. This was also the subject of my dissertation, which was just how these family drug court programs can have a much better, different impact on this population, other than just putting people in jail and taking their kids away, right? Mm-hmm. And so we developed and created the Legacy Family Court, which is Dallas County's first, and I still think only, a drug court program. That and several other drug courts throughout the Southeast were a part of the subject of my dissertation, my research study that we did there. We utilize social learning theory to prove categorically that these programs are far more effective than our traditional criminal courts and family courts programs. And out of that came the concept of human capital, which is a part of social learning theory. And it was how we were investing in the drug court participants. By investing in them, they could then invest in themselves and others. And that is now the chief core value of Tailored Counseling Group. So
explain to us what a drug court is. What is it?
Right. So kind of like when I was working at CPS, when we were taking these kids out for some reason, usually that starts because there's a CPS call. Somebody calls in and says, hey, this child is the subject of some kind of abuse, so we want to take the child out. Usually that comes with a legal problem, right? Mm-hmm. There's family courts that are set up that do exactly this, where the child's removed. You go into court and you try to get your child back, and you do A, B, and C. Maybe there is some drug use. Maybe there was some abandonment. Maybe there was physical abuse. Maybe there was prostitution, whatever it is, this child's in an unsafe environment. Well, the traditional court system is you go to jail or you lose your rights to see your kids, right? Well, we know that operant and classical conditioning just don't work. There is not a strong enough stick or a hard enough carrot to break addiction, right? There's just not. And so this is an alternate program. This is kind of like a divert court, where instead of going into the traditional family court system, you would then go into this alternate program that was 18 months long and had a ton of stipulations. And if you did all this stuff, you came into court every week, you went to AA meetings, you passed all your drug tests, all that stuff, then you would be reunified with your child. And there was also additional support, meaning they would help you with housing, they would help you with job placement, really just actually help this person become a functioning member of society that is a positive instead of a drain. And also these cases would usually get dismissed at the end of it.
When I was working in a county clinic, it was part of my internships. we saw, I saw a number of people who were appointed by the court.
Mm-hmm.
So that is happening, but what you're describing here just sounds like it's more intense, more
Right.
thorough, much more guided system. Now, is this something that's prevalent throughout our country?
Yes. Yeah. This started ironically enough in Florida, where I'm from. This is where the first drug court occurred in Miami-Dade County. And they came up with this crazy idea of saying, hey, let's stop putting people in prison. Maybe that's just not working. And so this movement is spread throughout the country. And now there are drug courts all over the country.
So I want to go back a little bit when you, not to put you on the spot here, when you were getting emotional about that kid.
Yeah.
What is it about this work that does get you, that drives you?
Oof. I don't know if you've ever read The Alchemist, but my personal legend is helping people find their way. I love it. I have the greatest job on the planet. I get to meet people when they are in dark times, and I get to walk with them to a better version of themselves that in many cases they didn't even know they could achieve. And I love that. I love walking with people in those times. It's just so amazing. It gets me jazzed every morning when I wake up and I see, I got somebody on my schedule that I get to talk to today. I love it.
That's awesome. Let me just remind everyone I'm speaking with Dr. Christopher S. Taylor. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors. All right, Christopher. So I'm smiling because that's so inspiring to hear that. What about that gets you? How were you always like that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. As a kid, I was very curious. I know my dad hated when I would take apart the toaster just to see how it worked. He got really mad when I took apart the VCR. I don't know if you remember those, but
of course, yeah.
I just wanted to know how those little pictures got so big. Now I couldn't put it back together, and so he was a little upset about that. But I was just always very curious about those things. I always wanted to be a part of building something and contributing to something. I guess maybe it's that sense of service that my family has, and I'm just kind of serving in a different way.
What do you, when you look back on, or you think about the system of CPS and the families there? You look at that, and in your mind, how do you describe what's going on there? What do people? How do people get to that point?
Oh man, that's a tough question, Guy. I don't know factually how people get there, but what I can tell you is that we are all struggling in very different ways, and some of us just have a rougher go of it. And I think we all have the potential to be in those places. It's just life can be very, very hard. And some of us just don't have the tools and the resources that we need to elevate. I think all these people want better lives. Maybe they don't have the tools or resources to get there.
Because I think working in a setting like that, you have a unique window into what's going on, because a lot of people who aren't in the mental health space, who haven't had that experience, it's very easy for them to look at someone like that or look at a family like that and think to judge, right?
Oh yeah.
To judge.
It's so easy.
And to condemn actions and why aren't they doing this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much under there. Oh, yeah. How did Taylor Counseling Group come to be? What was your initial thoughts and inspiration for developing that?
So it was several things that sort of came together. One was this, idea that I love to build stuff. And so I wanted to build something with legacy, something that was bigger than me. It came out of the fact that watching my professors run their practice, I realized that, they didn't want to take insurance because it was too difficult, and they could just charge private pay. They could charge $150 an hour, $300 an hour, and that's fine, but that's not affordable. You got to go to therapy once a week for a month. You're paying $150. That's $600 a month. That's the lease on a brand new Audi A6. That's a luxury. That's a luxury car. That's a German luxury car, right? It should be way more affordable, but insurance is just really tough to take. Also, our system is very disorganized, and there wasn't really this place for therapists to go and get a job as just sort of like a W-2 employee. That wasn't a thing really when I was starting Taylor Counseling Group. And then this idea of human capital that I had worked on in my dissertation from drug courts, like I wanted to fuse all that together. Mm-hmm. And that gave birth to Taylor Counseling Group, which focuses on providing affordable, reliable, accessible mental health to the state of Texas, and just Texas. That's our focus. And we want to elevate Texas from last in access to mental health care to first in access to mental health care. That's our goal.
Are they currently ranked as last?
We are last right now, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's according to Mental Health for America. That's not just something I made up.
Let's go back to human capital. What is that?
Well, human capital is the idea that if I invest deeply in you, Guy, and I invest in you, and I care about you, and I do the best I can to make your life better, well, then you will turn around and make your family's life better, and you'll invest in people around you, and then those people will do that with other people. And this is how we take a simple thing and make big impact on the world. And so that's what we're interested in. We want to invest in our people. We are employee first. We take care of our therapists first. We invest deeply in them. And we do that through culture. We do that through fixed salaries. We do that through award-winning support. We do that in a myriad of ways, and we make their lives as best as possible so that they can do the thing that they love, which is helping others find their way.
Wow. How did you get to this point where not only did you want to create your own practice, but do it in such an incredible way?
Well, I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of that will never work. I got a lot of that's crazy. You shouldn't do that. And my mentor in high school, Master Sergeant Robert Doty, told me very directly, he said, Chris, you must always invest in yourself above everything else.
Wow.
And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to invest in myself, and I'm going to keep doing that.
And let's talk about more. How do you invest in the people who work for you?
Yeah. So when we started Taylor Counseling Group, the idea of a salary was very unconventional in my field. In private practice, you would hire somebody to work in your practice. You would pay them a split maybe of what they brought in, or they were 1099, or maybe they got some kind of bonus or something. But that's just it. It's a service-based industry. So, I mean, you can only make money when you work with a client, right? So if you're not working with a client, then the operator, the owner, they can't really pay you, So that's sort of how it worked out. And I said, hey, you know what? That's a terrible idea. There's no stability in that. That creates competition, not collaboration. We want collaboration. That's how we grow, right? We want to work together, not against each other. Right. And so as soon as we took money off the table, some cool stuff happened. Clients just show up. They know they got a copay. The therapist has no idea what insurance the client's on, how much they pay. They don't care. Money's not a part of it. They just get to show up and do their job. And it's amazing. And then they get that same check every week. And that creates security, that creates stability, and that creates just a wonderful space for people to really grow and become really great team. They become a great team.
That's awesome. I mean, it's almost the antithesis of what I know a lot of other people experience when they were going through internships and practicums, and there was not at all that sense of collaboration. In fact, it was this feeling like, do these people care about us? We just feel like you're on this treadmill. That's really, really interesting. And how are you getting out? How are you reaching the people who need the care?
So we have offices in DFW, Houston, San Antonio, Waco, Austin, and Waxahachie. We take all major insurances, and we have a very, very affordable private pay rate of $100 an hour. And we have associates on staff that are able to work even lower than that if necessary. Right. And so we've just been really successful in being able to service our communities. We invest in our communities directly, financially, and through through volunteerism, through development, through, organization. Yeah.
When you work with your therapists, what do you feel it's important for them to know when they're working with, say, kids who are coming out of broken homes, et cetera?
Yeah. Not sure I understand the question, Guy. What do I feel?
Well, you've had this, I think, a pretty rich background,
right,
working in CPS. When you're working with the newer therapists, younger, maybe less experienced therapists, what do you feel it's important for them to know when they're encountering such types of clients?
Oh, well, I mean, one of the biggest things about therapy is this is a place free of judgment. There's no judgment here. We are here to support our patients. We are here to provide a very rich sense of community support, collaborative growth. These are our core values, and so we have these values, and we reward, recognize, hire, and fire people based on these values. And so we want to see our therapists living them out, and that's what they take into the session, is this sense of human capital. It doesn't matter, what problems this person has in their lives. Our job is to invest in them right now for this hour. That's it. We don't judge them. We are here to help, to provide that therapeutic service, to provide that very safe place where you can come, and it's all about you for this 1 hour. And, we're here to listen, and we're here to help.
When you were starting out, I'm guessing, like a lot of people, there were some mistakes, missteps, errors.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if you can share an early clinical error.
Oh,
what you learned from that.
Absolutely. We invest heavily into technology. So one of the things that makes us really great is that we're very efficient, and we're always staying up on the next piece of technology, and we always try to automate, and we automate as much as we can. In the beginning, we didn't really do a great job of training our therapists on some of that technology, and some therapists, as much as I love my fellow therapists, technology is not for everybody. And so there were some issues there for sure. We also, one of the first things I did that was just really a big misstep was we didn't get a big enough office. I got a small office because I was worried about the budget instead of just getting the big office that I wanted, because we ran out of room very quickly.
How about working with your experience in working with clients? Errors there?
I don't really know.
A lot of people say, well, going too fast when I was working with this person, or maybe I got triggered myself and I hadn't, worked on my own stuff, or.
I tell you, I learned very quickly that I didn't want to do play therapy anymore. I love working with kids, but parents can be rather difficult, which I say as a parent myself. So I totally get it. Yeah.
Talking with Dr. Taylor again, what is the best way for people to get in contact with you, Chris?
You can just reach us on the website, taylorcounselinggroup.com, info@taylorcounselinggroup.com. We'll get you straight to me.
Okay, awesome. Appreciate you being here, Christopher. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks, Guy.
All right, take care.